Budapest seems a wonderful place. The impression I had was that we were leaving the west and entering the east. We came after nightfall to Klausenberg, where I had supper. A chicken done up some way with red pepper, which was very good, but thirsty. I thought to get the recipe for Mina, so I asked the waiter what it was.
Is paprika styrka. You say paprika handle, national dish. You get it everywhere along the Carpathians.
Having some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country could hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with a noble of that country. I was not able to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of the Castle Dracula, but I found that Bistritz, the post town named by Count Dracula, is a fairly well-known place. I read that every known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the centre of some sort of imaginative whirlpool. If so, my stay may be very interesting. I did not sleep well, though my bed was comfortable enough, for I had all sorts of queer dreams. In the morning, I had to hurry breakfast, for the train started a little after 8. It was on the dark side of twilight when we got to Bistritz, which is practically on the frontier, for the Borgo Pass leads from it into Bukovina. Count Dracula had directed me to go to the Golden Krone Hotel, where I was evidently expected.
The Herr Englishman?
Yes, Jonathan Harker.
There is a letter here for you, sir.
The letter was from Count Dracula.
My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight. At 3 tomorrow the diligence will start for Bukovina. A place on it is kept for you. At the Borgo Pass my carriage will await you and will bring you to me. I trust that you will enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, Dracula.
4th of May. I found that my landlord had also got a letter from the Count, directing him to secure the best place on the coach for me.
The Count has sent money with the letter.
Do you know the Count Dracula? Can you tell me anything of his castle?
No, I know nothing at all. Nothing.
Must you go? Oh, young Herr, must you go? Do you know what day it is?
Yes, it is the 4th of May.
Yes, it is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you know where you are going and what you are going to? At least, young Herr, please wait a day or two before starting.
I thank you, but my duty is imperative. I must go.
Then take this crucifix. Here, wear it round your neck for your mother's sake. I beg you, young Herr.
5th of May. The crucifix is still round my neck. Whether it is the old lady's fear, I do not know, but I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. People at the inn door looked at me most pityingly, I thought, and muttered a word meaning something that is either werewolf or vampire. I must ask the Count about these superstitions. Then, when the coach left, the crowd all made the sign of the cross and pointed 2 fingers towards me. I asked a fellow passenger what they meant.
It's a charm or a guard against the evil eye.
I soon lost sight and recollection of ghostly fears in the beauty of the scene as we drove along. At one point, on a steep hill with the horses going slowly, I wished to get down and walk, but the driver would not hear of it.
No, you must not walk here. The dogs are too fierce, and you may have enough of such matters before you go to sleep.
Then, as we flew along through the Borgo Pass, I looked out for the conveyance which was to take me to the Count. Suddenly, the horses began to neigh and snort and plunge wildly. The passengers crossed themselves. and a carriage with 4 horses drew up beside the coach. The driver was a tall man, with a long brown beard and a great black hat, from under which I could see only the gleam of a pair of very bright eyes, which seemed red in the lamplight.
Give me the hare's luggage. Come, the night is chill, mine herr, and my master the Count bade me take all care of you. There is a flask of slivovitz under the seat, if you should require it.
The carriage set off at a hard pace. I struck a match and looked at my watch. It was within a few minutes of midnight. Then, far off in the distance, from the mountains on each side of us, came the howling of wolves. The horses reared and plunged madly, so that the driver had to use all his great strength to keep them from bolting. Suddenly, away on our left, I saw a flickering blue flame. The driver at once checked the horses and, jumping to the ground, went rapidly to where the flame rose. There was a strange optical effect. When he stood between me and the flame, he did not obstruct it, for I could see its ghostly flicker all the same. The wolves began to howl nearer at hand, and became visible in the moonlight. The horses reared. The living ring of terror encompassed us on every side. The driver raised his voice in a tone of imperious command, swept his long arms, and the wolves fell back. Just then a heavy cloud passed across the face of the moon, so that we were again in darkness. The wolves had disappeared, but it was all so strange and uncanny that a dreadful fear came upon me. We swept on our way, now almost in complete darkness, always ascending. Suddenly, I became conscious of the fact that the driver was pulling up the horses in the courtyard of a vast, ruined castle, from whose tall black windows came no ray of light.
We have arrived, mine herr. The castle of Count Dracula.
From the Journal of Jonathan Harker, 5th of May, Dracula's Castle.
The driver jumped down and assisted me to alight. His hand seemed like a steel vice that could have crushed mine if he had chosen. Then he disappeared down one of the dark openings that led from the great courtyard. I stood before a great door in silence. Of bell or knocker there was no sign. I felt fears and doubts crowding upon me. Was this a customary incident in the life of a solicitor sent out to explain the purchase of a London estate to a foreigner?
Welcome to my house. Enter freely and of your own will.
Count Dracula?
I am Dracula, and I bid you welcome, Mr. Harker. Come in. The night air is chill, and you must need to eat and rest. I will take your luggage. It is late and my people are not available. Come, supper is laid out. Pray be seated. You will, I trust, excuse me that I do not join you, but I have dined already, and I do not sup.
When I had finished an excellent supper of roast chicken, cheese, salad, and some old Tokai, I had the opportunity of observing my host. His face was a very strong, aquiline, with high bridge of the thin nose and strangely arched nostrils. The mouth, so far as I could see it under the heavy moustache, was fixed and rather cruel-looking, with sharp white teeth. The general effect was one of extraordinary pallor. We talked for many long hours, until at length, as I looked towards the window, I saw the first dim streak of the coming dawn, and heard, as if from down below in the valley, the howling of many wolves.
You must be tired. Your bedroom is all ready, and tomorrow you shall sleep as late as you will. I have to be away till the afternoon, so sleep well and dream well.
7th of May. I slept till late in the day, and when I awoke of my own accord, I found a cold breakfast laid out. There was a card on the table.
I have to be absent for a while. Do not wait for me, Dracula.
I have not yet seen a servant anywhere in the castle, or heard a sound except the howling of wolves. In none of the rooms is there a mirror, and I had to get the little shaving glass from my bag before I could either shave or brush my hair. I looked about for something to read. I opened a door and found a sort of library with a vast number of English books, magazines, and newspapers.
Ah, Mr. Harker. I'm glad you found your way in here, for I'm sure there is much that will interest you. Come to this room when you choose. Go anywhere you wish in the castle, except where the doors are locked. There is reason that all things are as they are. We are in Transylvania, and Transylvania is not England. Our ways are not your ways. But come, tell me of London and the house you have procured for me.
Well, at Purfleet, on a by-road, I came across just such a place as seemed to be required, an estate called Carfax. The house is old and large, close to an old chapel. There are few houses near at hand, one being a very large house recently formed into a private lunatic asylum.
I rejoice that it is old and big, and that there is a chapel of old times. We Transylvanian nobles love not to think that our bones may be among the common dead. I seek not gaiety or mirth. I love the shade and the shadow, and would be alone with my thoughts. And now, you must excuse me for a time.
When he had gone, I found an atlas which opened naturally at England, as if that map had been much used. 3 places were marked with little rings. One near London, where the Count's new estate was situated. The other 2 were Exeter and Whitby on the Yorkshire coast. The Count returned and led me into supper, again excusing himself as he had dined away from home. We chatted until it was very late. All at once we heard the crow of a cock coming up through the clear morning air. Count Dracula jumped to his feet and with a courtly bow immediately left me. 8th of May. I slept for only a few hours when I went to bed, then got up and was just beginning to shave when I felt the Count's hand on my shoulder. I looked in my shaving glass, and there was no reflection of him in the mirror. I must have started and cut myself. The blood was trickling over my chin, and I turned to look for some sticking plaster. When the Count saw my face, his eyes blazed with a sort of demoniac fury, and he suddenly made a grab at my throat. His hands touched the string of beads which held the crucifix, and his fury passed instantly.
Take care how you cut yourself. It is more dangerous than you think in this country. And this is the wretched thing that has done the mischief, this shaving glass. Away with it!
Later I saw the Count laying the table in the dining room, and then found him making the bed in my room, which only confirmed what I had thought all along, that there were no servants in the house. The Count himself must have been my coachman. I did a little exploring in the castle. There were doors everywhere, and all locked and bolted. In no place, save from the windows in the castle wall, is there an available exit. The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner. I suppose I must have fallen asleep, but all that followed was startlingly real. In the moonlight opposite me were 3 young women with brilliant white teeth that shone like pearls against the ruby of their voluptuous lips. I felt in my heart a deadly fear, yet at the same time a wicked, burning desire that they would kiss me with those red lips.
He is young and strong. There are kisses for us all. Go on. You are first. We shall follow. You begin. Yes, there are kisses for us all.
Back! Back! How dare you touch him, any of you? This man belongs to me. You yourselves know that. I promise you that when I am done with him, you shall kiss him at your will. Now go. There is work to be done. There.
He threw them a bag, which seemed to contain a living thing within it. If my ears did not deceive me, there was a gasp and a low wail as of a half-smothered child. The women closed round it, and they simply seemed to fade into the rays of the moonlight and pass out through the window with the bag. The horror overcame me, and I sank down unconscious.
From the Journal of Jonathan Harker, 16th of May, Dracula's Castle.
Tonight, I looked from my window out over the beautiful expanse, bathed in soft yellow moonlight. My eye was caught of a sudden by something moving below me, from where the windows of the Count's room would look out. To my horror, I saw the Count slowly emerge from the window and begin to crawl down the castle wall over that dreadful abyss, face down, with his cloak spreading out around him like great wings. I saw the fingers and toes grasp the corners of the stones, and by thus using every projection, move downwards with considerable speed, just as a lizard moves along a wall. 17th of May. In the evening, when the Count came from his room, he began by asking me questions on legal matters and on the doing of certain kinds of business. He went on to inquire about the means of making consignments and the forms to be gone through. When he had satisfied himself on these points, he suddenly stood up.
Have you written since your first letter to our friend Mr. Hawkins?
No. As yet, I have not seen any opportunity of sending letters to anybody.
Then right now, my young friend. 3 letters. One saying that your work here is nearly done. Another that you are starting on the next morning from the time of the letter. And the third, that you have left the castle and arrived at Bistritz.
But what dates should I put on the letters?
Let me see. The first should be June the 12th, the second June the 19th, and the third June the 29th.
I know now the span of my life. God help me. 31st of May. This morning when I woke, I found that all my papers were gone. My notes, my letters of credit, anything that might be useful to me were I outside the castle. I could find no trace also of the suit in which I had travelled, nor my overcoat and rug. 17th of June. This morning I saw drive into the yard 2 large wagons containing great square boxes with handles of thick rope. These were evidently empty by the ease with which the Slovaks handled them, and they were unloaded and packed in a heap in a corner of the yard. 24th of June, before morning. The Sakani are quartered somewhere in the castle, and are doing work of some kind. I know it, for now and then I hear a far-away, muffled sound as of mattock and spade, and whatever it is, it must be to the end of some ruthless villainy. I had been at the window somewhat less than half an hour, when I saw something come out of the Count's window. I drew back and watched carefully, and saw the whole man emerge. It was a new shock to me to find that he had on the suit of clothes which I had worn whilst travelling here, and slung over his shoulder the terrible bag which I had seen the women take away. There could be no doubt as to his quest, and in my garb, too. This, then, is his new scheme of evil, that he will allow others to see me as they think, so that he may leave evidence that I have been seen in the towns or villages posting my own letters. I sat for a long time at the window and began to notice that there were some quaint little specks floating in the rays of the moonlight. There was a low howling of dogs somewhere far below in the valley, and the floating motes of dust seemed to take new shapes to the sound. I was becoming hypnotized. The phantom shapes, which gradually materialized from the moonbeams, were those of the 3 ghostly women to whom I was doomed. I fled to where a lamp was burning brightly. When a couple of hours had passed, I heard a sound in the courtyard outside, the agonized cry of a woman. I rushed to the window and peered out between the bars.
Monster, give me
Somewhere overhead, I heard the voice of the Count in his harsh, metallic whisper. His call seemed to be answered from far and wide by the howling of wolves. Before many minutes had passed, a pack of them poured, like a pent-up dam when liberated, through the wide entrance into the courtyard. There was no cry from the woman, and the howling of the wolves was but short. Before long they streamed away singly, licking their lips. What shall I do? What can I do? How can I escape? When I was about to lie down, I thought I heard a whispering at my door.
Back to your own place. Your time is not yet come. Have patience. Tomorrow night, he is yours.
I threw open the door and saw without the 3 terrible women licking their lips. Tomorrow. Lord, help me, and those to whom I am dear. It has always been at night time that I have been molested or threatened, or in some way in danger or in fear. I have not yet seen the Count in the daylight. Can it be that he sleeps when others wake? That he may be awake whilst they sleep? If I could only get into his room. But there is no possible way. The door is always locked. Yes, there is a way if one dares to take it. Where his body has gone, why may not another body go? I have seen him crawl from his window. Why should not I imitate him and go in by his window? The same day, later. I have made the effort, and God helping me, I have climbed the stones to the Count's window. The room was empty, but an open door at one corner led through a stone passage to a circular stairway which went steeply down. I descended and found myself in an old, ruined chapel, evidently used as a graveyard. There, in one of the great boxes, on a pile of newly dug earth, lay the Count. He was either dead or asleep, but the eyes were open, and on the lips were gouts of fresh blood. This was the awful creature, that filthy leech I was helping to transfer to London, where he might further satiate his lust for blood and create a new circle of semi-demons to batten on the helpless. I had a terrible desire to rid the world of such a monster. I seized a shovel and struck at the hateful face. But as I did so, the head turned, and the eyes fell full upon me with all their blaze of basilisk horror. The shovel fell from my hand and caught the edge of the lid, which crashed down, hiding the bloated, blood-stained face from my sight. I heard voices coming closer, and ran back to the Count's room. The door from the stairway blew to behind me, and when I went to push it open, I found that it was hopelessly fast. I was again a prisoner, and the net of doom was closing round me. As I write, there is in the passage below a sound of many tramping feet, and the crash of weights being set down heavily. Doubtless the boxes with their freight of earth. There is a sound of hammering. It is the box being nailed down. The door is shut, and the chains rattle. There is a grinding of the key in the lock. In the courtyard and down the rocky way, the roll of heavy wheels, the crack of whips, and the chorus of the Tzgani as they pass into the distance. I am alone in the castle with those awful women. I shall not remain alone with them. I shall try to scale the castle wall farther than I have yet attempted. I may find a way from this dreadful place, and then away for home, away to the quickest and nearest train, away from this cursed spot, from this cursed land. At least God's mercy is better than that of these monsters, and the precipice is steep and high. At its foot man may sleep as a man. Goodbye, all. Mina.
From Miss Mina Murray to Miss Lucy Westenra, 9th of May.
My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing, but I've been working very hard lately, keeping up with Jonathan's studies, so that when we are married I shall be able to be useful to him, taking down in shorthand what he wants to say and writing it out for him on the typewriter, at which I'm practicing very hard. I've just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan in Transylvania. He is well, and will be returning in about a week. Tell me all the news when you write. I hear rumours of a tall, handsome, curly-haired man. Your loving Mina.
Miss Lucy Westenra to Miss Mina Murray, 24th of May.
My dearest Mina, someone has evidently been telling tales. The tall, curly-haired man is Mr. Holmwood, who often comes to see us. He and Mamma get on very well together. We met some time ago a man that would just do for you, if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He is a doctor, and really clever. He has an immense lunatic asylum, all under his own care. His name is John Seward. Mina, we have told all our secrets to each other since we were children. Here am I, 20 in September, and today I have had 3 proposals. One was from Dr. John Seward, the lunatic asylum man. Number 2 came after lunch from such a nice fellow, an American from Texas called Mr. Quincy P. Morris. And number 3, I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Oh, Mina, can't you guess? I love him. Arthur, I love him, I love him. Goodbye, Lucy.
From Dr. Seward's diary, 25th of May.
Since my rebuff yesterday, I've had a sort of empty feeling. The only cure for this sort of thing is work, so I went down among the patients and picked out one who was quite unlike the normal lunatic, R.M. Renfield, age 59, great physical strength, morbidly excitable, a possibly dangerous man with some fixed idea which I cannot make out.
Quincy P. Morris to the Honourable Arthur Holmwood, 25th of May.
My dear Art, we've told yarns by the campfire in the prairies. Now there are more yarns to be told and another health to be drunk. Let it be at my campfire tomorrow night. There will be one other, our old pal Jack Seward, and we want to mingle our weeps over the wine cup and to drink a health with all our hearts to the happiest man in the world who has won the noblest heart that God has made.
From Arthur Holmwood to Quincy P. Morris, 26th of May.
Count me in every time.
From the Journal of Mina Murray, 24th of July, Whitby.
Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever. And we drove up to the house at the Crescent, where they have rooms. Right above the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes. We met a funny old man, Mr. Swales, who told us that he was nearly 100. Lucy and I had been sitting a while when he pointed to a stone at our feet.
It's like the rest on 'em. Nothing but lies of one kind or another. Here lies the body and such like. In nigh half on 'em, there ain't no bodies at all. Here, read them lines on that there stone.
Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died on July the 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Kettleness. This tomb is erected by his sorrowing mother.
Aye, the sorrowing mother was a hellcat that hated him, and he hated her. So he committed suicide, so she shouldn't get an insurance she put on his life. He blew nigh the top of his head off with a musket and fell off the rocks.
Oh, and it's my favourite seat. Now I find I am sitting over the grave of a suicide.
26th of July. Today I came up to the same place alone, for I'm anxious about Lucy and about Jonathan. Yesterday, dear Mr. Hawkins sent me a letter from Jonathan. It's only a line, dated from the castle Dracula, and says that he is just starting for home. That's not like him, and it makes me uneasy. Then Lucy, although she is so well, has taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. She's to be married to Arthur Holmwood in the autumn and is already planning her dresses and how the house is to be arranged. I do the same, but Jonathan and I will start life in a very simple way. 3rd of August. Another week gone and still no news from Jonathan. Oh, I do hope he's not ill. I looked at that last letter of his. It is his writing, yet it does not read like him. Lucy walks more than ever in her sleep, and there's an odd concentration about her I do not understand. 6th of August. Still no news. Lucy is more excitable than ever. Last night was very threatening, and the fishermen say that we are in for a terrible storm. I met old Mr. Swales again on my walk along the cliff top.
I'm afraid, my dearie, I must have shocked you by what I've been saying about the dead and such like. Well, we old folks that be duffled with 1 foot abaft the crock wall, well, for the likes of us, death be all that we can rightly depend on. For life be, after all, a waiting for something else. But Lord love you, miss, I ain't afraid of dying. It's coming to me, and coming quick. It may be coming while we be looking and wondering. Maybe it's in that wind out over at sea that's bringing with loss and wreck and sore distress. Look, there's something in that wind that sounds and tastes and smells like death. Ooh, it's in the air. I feel it coming. Eh, God bless you, miss. God bless you. And goodbye.
All that touched me and upset me very much. And I was glad when the Coast Guard came along with his spyglass. He was looking out to sea at a strange ship.
I can't make her out. She's a Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in queerest way. She don't know her mind a bit. She seems to see storm coming, but she can't decide whether to run up north in Topen or to put in here. Look there again. She changes about with every puff of wind. We'll hear more of her before this time tomorrow.
The Daily Graph, 8th of August, from a correspondent. Whitby. One of the greatest and suddenest storms on record has just been experienced here. There were tempestuous winds and high seas, with drifting sea fog, which cleared at times to enable the new Eastcliff searchlight to pick out a foreign schooner, with sails all set, beyond the great flat reef on which so many good ships have suffered. The wind suddenly shifted, and swept the strange schooner into the safety of the harbour, where she drove up on a sand-heap. At the very instant the shore was touched, an immense dog sprang from the deck onto the sand and disappeared into the darkness. I was permitted to climb on board, and saw for myself that the man at the helm was a dead seaman, actually lashed to the wheel. The schooner is a Russian one from Varna, the Demeter, with only a small amount of cargo, a number of great wooden boxes filled with mould. This cargo was consigned to a Whitby solicitor, Mr. Billington, who has taken possession of the goods. The dog which landed when the ship struck is not to be found, but early this morning a large mastiff belonging to a coal merchant here was seen dead in the roadway. It had been fighting, and manifestly had a savage opponent, for its throat was torn away, and its belly was slit open as if with a savage claw. The log of the Demeter was found, and contains a strange narrative.
6th of July, Varna. Took in charge boxes of earth. Set sail. 12th of July, through Dardanelles. Crew seems scared about something, continually crossing themselves. 16th of July. Mate reported that one of the crew, Petrovsky, missing. 17th of July. One of the men thought there was strange man aboard the ship. Tall, thin, unlike any of crew. Searched the ship, but only wooden boxes, so no corner where man might hide. 24th of July. There seems some doom over this ship. Entered Bay of Biscay, and another man lost. Disappeared. 28th July. Wind abating, but sea still terrific. Another tragedy. Second mate disappeared. 30th July. Nearing England. Awoken by mate telling me both men of watch and steerman missing. Only self and mate and 2 hands left to work ship. 2nd August. 3 days of fog. We seem to be drifting to some terrible doom. Man on watch disappeared. We are now off in North Sea. 4th of August. It is nearly all over now. Mate seems to have gone stark raving mad, claiming to have seen strange, ghastly, pale man in one of the boxes. I went to relieve man at wheel, but found no one there. Mate came up hatchway.
Save me! He's there! I know the secret now. Only the sea will save me from him.
Before I could say a word, he deliberately threw himself into the sea. But I am captain, and I must not leave my ship. I shall yet baffle this fiend or monster, for I shall tie my hands to the wheel when my strength begins to fail. And along with them I shall tie that which it dare not touch, a crucifix. Then I shall save my soul and my honor as captain. God help me.
From the diary of Dr. John Seward, 5th of June.
The case of Renfield grows more interesting. Just now his hobby is catching flies. 18th of June. He has turned his mind now to spiders and keeps feeding them with his flies. 1st of July. His spiders are now becoming a great nuisance, and today I told him he must get rid of them. He disgusted me much while I was with him, for when a horrid blowfly, bloated with some carrion food, buzzed into the room, he caught it, put it into his mouth, and ate it. This gave me an idea. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. 8th of July. Now, there is method in his madness, and the idea in my mind is growing. Renfield has parted with some of his pets and got a new one, a sparrow, which he has partially tamed. 19th of July. Now, we are progressing. He now has a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. 20th of July. Visited Renfield very early. I did not see any of his birds and asked him where they were.
They have all flown away.
There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow a drop of blood. I told the keeper to report to me if there were anything odd about him during the day.
Doctor, Renfield has just been very sick, and he's disgorged a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, Doctor, that he's eaten his birds, and that he just took and ate them raw.
Yes. My theory is proved. This homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall call him a zoophagus, a life-eating maniac. He gave flies to the spiders to a bird, and then what would have been his later steps?
From the Journal of Mina Murray, 10th of August.
Lucy was restless all night and got up twice and dressed herself. Fortunately, each time I woke and managed to undress her without waking her. The storm was fearful, and I felt glad that Jonathan was not on the sea. But is he on land or sea? Where is he? And how is he? Oh, I'm fearfully anxious about him. Poor old Mr. Swales was found dead this morning, with a look of horror on his face that men said made them shudder. 11th of August. I woke with a start at 3 a.m. and found that Lucy's bed was empty. Her clothes were in their places, so she must have gone out in only her nightdress. The hall door was half open, and there was a bright full moon outside, but heavy driving clouds. I ran along the east cliff, and as the abbey came into view in the moonlight, the light of the moon struck her half-reclining figure, snowy white, there on our favourite seat. The shadow of a cloud shut out the light almost immediately, but it seemed to me that something dark, stood behind the seat and bent over it. Whether it was man or beast, I could not tell. I flew towards the seat as fast as I could, calling out to Lucy. Something long and black, bending over her white figure, raised its head, and I could see a white face and red gleaming eyes. A cloud passed over the moon again as I ran through the churchyard, but when I reached Lucy, she was quite alone and still asleep, though breathing in long, heavy gasps. She shuddered as though she felt the cold, so I flung my warm shawl over her, fastening it at her throat with a big safety pin. I must have been clumsy and pricked her with it, for she put her hand to her throat and moaned. Wishing to get her home at once, I shook her, till she opened her eyes and awoke. Fortunately, we got home without meeting a soul, and I tucked her into bed.
Mina, promise me that you will not say a word of this to anyone, even my mother.
Very well. I promise. Lucy slept till I woke her, and the adventure of the night does not seem to have harmed her. I was sorry to notice the effects of my clumsiness with the safety pin. I must have pinched up a piece of skin and transfixed it, for there were 2 little red points like pinpricks, and on her nightdress was a drop of blood. Fortunately, it cannot leave a scar. It's so tiny. 13th of August. Twice during the night I was awakened by Lucy trying to get out of the room, but I'd locked the door and the key was tied to my wrist. On the second occasion, Lucy pointed to the window, and when I pulled aside the blind, I saw between me and the moonlight a great bat coming and going in great whirling circles. It came quite close, but was, I suppose, frightened at seeing me and flitted away across the harbour towards the abbey. Lucy then slept peacefully and did not stir again all night. 14th of August. Lucy and I were on the East Cliff again, reading and writing all day. We were coming home for dinner just as the sun was dropping behind Kettleness when Lucy looked back at the seat where a dark figure was seated alone.
His red eyes again. They are just the same.
It was an odd remark to make, though it did seem to me for an instant as if the stranger had great eyes like burning flames. But a second look dispelled the illusion. Lucy had a headache and went to bed straight after dinner. I went out for a little stroll by myself, thinking sadly of Jonathan. On the way home, I glanced up at the window. I saw Lucy, her head resting against the side of the windowsill and her eyes shut. She was fast asleep, and by her side on the windowsill was something that looked like a good-sized bird. I ran upstairs to find her still asleep, but moving back to her bed, breathing heavily and holding her hand to her throat. She looks so sweet as she sleeps, but she's paler than is her wont, and there's a drawn, haggard look about her eyes I do not like. 15th of August. Lucy was tired and slept on till after breakfast. We had a happy surprise. Arthur's father, who had been ill, is much better and wants the marriage to come off soon. Lucy's mother is glad and sorry, all at once.
Yes, I grieve to lose Lucy as my very own, but I am happy that she is soon to have someone to protect her. For myself, well, I have got my death warrant. Do not tell Lucy this. The doctor says that my heart is weakening, and within a few months, at the most, I must die.
17th of August. No news from Jonathan. And Lucy seems to be growing weaker, whilst her mother's hours are numbering to a close. I do not understand why Lucy is fading away as she is. I looked at her throat as she lay asleep, and the tiny wounds seem not to have healed. They are still open, and if anything, larger than before, like little white dots with red centres.